Excellent. Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our everyday lives. I am so excited to have our guest on tonight. So let's get started. So, welcome to the show and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dana. I'm really excited to talk with you. My name is Sylvia Shultz. I've been a paranormal investigator for about 15 years now, and I absolutely love sitting in dark, spooky places so that you don't have to.
Well, someday I will be. I tell you, one of these days. One
Yeah.
of these days, I tell you.
Well, there's always time to get spooky. So, yes, I have written several books of paranormal nonfiction. I go out and find stories and come back and tell my readers all about them. I am known for putting a lot of history in my books as well. I really believe that you can't understand the ghost stories of a place without knowing the history, because that's why we have the stories. So people really enjoy the history background that I provide too. Um, I've just always adored history, and I just can't get enough. And now I adore ghost stories too. Well, I always have done, but yeah, the combination of ghost stories and the history behind them is really what gets my motor revving, and people seem to dig it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's such an amazing thing. I've only been on one ghost tour. Checked out friend's house that had friendly ghosts in it. So I haven't been in anything like too crazy or anything yet, but I'm excited to check it out and experience some of that. So
Yeah,
I'm excited for it. So
excellent.
excited.
It's an exciting thing. It's really neat to. The reason I do this is for the communication. That's why
Mhm.
I do research before I go to a place. I know some people like to, especially psychic mediums, like to go into a place cold and not have any preconceived notions of what they're going to find there. Me personally, I like to know something about the place before I go in, because that's a good way to tailor your questions to the situation. Um, if you're going into a place that, well, a very skeptical friend of mine once said, well, it's like doing an investigation at a college. You wouldn't, and if somebody died in the gymnasium, you wouldn't go in and start talking about stuff that you'd find in the chemistry lab. So you'll get more of a connection with the spirits of a place if you are talking about things they know, things that they are familiar with. I also really believe in talking with the spirits just the same as I would sit and just like I'm talking with you. I don't believe in going there and saying, "Oh, how did you die?" and blah blah blah. I just start off with some friendly conversation. Do you happen to know what year it is? What's your um, what dish did your mother make for you that you really enjoyed? Can you show me the smell of the cookies that your mother made, or something like that, something to just get them thinking and responding in any way that they can.
That's a unique way, and I like that. That's a very friendly way to get connected with them and to have them open up and feel like they're welcome with
Right,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful way.
Yeah, if somebody comes into my house, I would want them to talk to me about things that I'm interested in. And
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it. I'm going into their space. I'm going into their home. Whether they've been there for a decade or 150 years, that's their home, and I am a guest in their home. So I am going to be on my best behavior and not provoke or anything like that, and
Right.
just try to be a good guest.
Yes, yes. And I understand that and I get that feel and I I feel like that's where I would be going in. I would want to be that way too,
Yeah,
to be, because who wants to be talked nasty to, you know?
exactly. Or talked
So,
down to like stupid or something.
right, right, right. So, yeah, so I would feel that same way going in, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah. Especially
try to
after
be
I
a
have a,
breeze.
yeah, especially after I have some experiences. So I'm not like freaking out or anything.
Well,
Okay,
most
wait.
of the time, there's no need to freak out. Most of the time, you're interacting with spirits that are either neutral or friendly. Bless you. My dog just sneezed.
Shoot. The same
uh,
thing with my dog.
so,
I bless him.
so yeah, what were we talking about before we got interrupted by a canine sniffle there? Um,
Just being friendly with the
yeah, being
host.
friendly and yeah, that's I like I said, I would want to someone to behave themselves in my house, and that's their I enjoy the conversations that I've had, and with places that I've been more than once, I enjoy the rapport that I've built up with some of the spirits that I've had conversations with in the past. And yeah, that's the real joy about doing this sort of thing is the communication.
Yeah, and you've been to some pretty crazy places. So
Oh
how
yeah.
do you how, how do you work with the different levels of energy? So you have,
Oh,
I know you're trying to be friendly with all of them and everything. So how, and I know you've been to one that's like really, really crazy.
oh
Um,
yeah. Well, even if
too.
I'm not friendly, I try to be polite. I don't want anything getting mad at me. I am allergic to confrontation in my personal life. So I really, really don't want to provoke and get something mad at me that I can't see.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I should just I've stayed the night at the Villisca Axe Murder House, and you're talking about energies of places. I've found that the more I do this, the more sensitive I do become to the energies of a place. And yeah, I've gotten to the point where I can walk into a place and say to myself, well, let's see what's going on here. This feels kind of flat. It doesn't feel like there's much going on. And then you can also have the exact opposite. You can walk into a place and say, oh boy, this place is absolutely hopping tonight. And I did experience that at the Villisca Axe Murder House a couple of times. Um, I was fortunate enough I've been there a couple of times. And the very first time I was there, I was just exquisitely fortunate to have the place to myself for about 45 minutes. Everyone else had gone off to supper, and I got there late, so I was like, I'm not going to waste time eating supper. I'm just going to explore this place and see what's going on before everyone else comes back. So I was up in the attic of the house, which is, according to the ghost lore and the true crime lore, that is where whoever it was that killed the entire family and two little neighbor girls hid until coming out and slaughtering everyone in the house. So I was, and this is broad daylight that this happened, so it was really, really creepy. Um, I was recording for my own podcast, and I went into the attic and knowing that this is where this person hid, and I looked at the underside of the ceiling, and the roofing nails had were kind of poking through like all over the ceiling.
Mhm.
And I looked at that and I said, wow, you would really have to be careful if you were hiding in here. You would have to be careful not to stand up too quickly because you could really hurt yourself on these nail points. And as soon as I said you could really hurt yourself, I had this feeling of, I do not need to be in this room anymore, and I need to get out right now. So I noped out of there like my butt was on fire. And I went down to the regular part, the first floor of the house, and whew, okay, whoo, wow, that was weird. Um, and then pretty soon after that, everyone else came back from supper, and we had an absolutely wonderful time exploring the house and doing EVP work and just having a grand old time ghost hunting all evening and all night. And I went back into the attic a couple of times and didn't feel that need to vacate the premises immediately. Um,
Mm.
I did have another very strange energy related experience there. As I said, I spent the night there, slept in on the floor in the parlor, and I was the last one to leave the house Sunday morning. And our host just said, just leave the key in the mailbox and lock up behind you, obviously, and leave the key in the mailbox. I was like, oh, I've been entrusted with the keys to the Villisca Axford
Oh
house.
no.
Uh, so I got all my equipment packed up and put in the car, and I thought to myself, well, there's one more picture that I want to take. Let's get that done, and then we'll get on the road because it's a long hike from my house. So I went upstairs and I took the final photograph that I wanted to. And it's a very small house, and there are very narrow stairs that go up from the kitchen to the parents' bedroom. And you know about the Villisca axe murder house. Everyone inside was just brutally slaughtered, and there was blood all over the place. Um, so I was heading downstairs, down that narrow staircase, and my brain can be a bit of a jerk sometimes. And my brain said, well, the first responders would have carried the children, the four children, down in their arms, but how did they get the adults down these narrow stairs? And I thought, well, it would have to have been in like a fireman's carry over their shoulders or something. And it happened. All these six bodies were taken down this staircase that I'm walking on right now. And my brain said, nah, no, 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 no. And it was weird because the evening before, we were all in the house and we were having a good time. And the energy of the previous evening was, you could tell that this was a house where four children were being raised with love by parents who enjoyed each other's company. And it was just super relaxing for a bloody true crime scene. But the next morning, oh my goodness, the energy of the house just shifted under my feet, and it was kind of unnerving. Now, I talked to the guy who was in charge of the place, Johnny Hauser. Um, I I talked to him about that very thing, and he said that is absolutely true about this particular haunted place. The energy can shift on a dime. You can be in there and just be having a great old time, just enjoying yourself and doing your thing ghost hunting. And all of a sudden, you will just feel the need to get the heck out of there immediately. And you'll go outside and hang out on the lawn or hang out in the barn for a while, just collect yourself and take a few deep breaths. And then you'll go back inside after about 15 minutes or so, and you're thinking to yourself, what was I so freaked out about? I have no reason to be freaked out, no explanation for freaking out, and then the rest of the evening will just carry on. um, I have a theory about the particular event that I experienced. um, in the true crime lore, the bodies were discovered in the morning at about the time I was wrapping up and saying my goodbye to the place. So I think that the house held on to that memory, that sense memory, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I was wondering if that too, when you were saying, I was like, well, if this happened in the daytime, that is probably more activity during the day in this place than the
Yeah.
nighttime because of that.
Yeah. And the evening before, the family had gone to a Sunday school program at their church, and the two little girls were the neighbor girls were getting to spend the night at their friend's house, and yay! I remember how much fun that was when I was a kid.
Right.
So yeah, everyone was nice and happy and relaxed that evening before, and I think that's what we were all picking up on. But then the next morning at about that time, now that I think back on it, yeah, I think the house remembered somehow.
So do you feel like this is like a residual that was happening instead of like a haunting? It's more of a residual,
I don't
or
think it was residual. I think it was an active haunting. And
okay.
a lot of other investigators have gotten evidence that tells them that it is an active haunting instead of simply residual. They've gotten intelligent responses to questions. Um, and they've had doors closing on them, and boy, would I have loved to see that. I always seem to get skunked when it comes to closing doors. I got a funny story about that too. But yeah, everything, all of the evidence from Villisca points to it being an active haunting rather than residual.
Okay. Awesome. That's
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I think I have time before I go to something like that. But I let me start off with the little hauntings first, okay?
There you go. Yeah. Jump in at the deep end.
I don't want to jump into the deep end. I want to walk in slowly.
Yeah, yeah. Get your toes wet. Yeah.
Right. Right. Oh, yeah. It's like
Yeah,
a
with some friendly ghosts.
yeah, it's a friendly ghost at first. You know, get used to like being touched and being,
Yeah.
all of that, having some doors closed and I don't know, I might kind of freak out with that one a little bit, but at the same time, I want to experience it. I want to have those different things, just all of it, just to
Oh, it is
experience
such
it.
a
And
thrill. Yeah, it is such a
yeah,
thrill to have an experience. Yeah, there's a very friendly spirit in the basement of one of the buildings that I used to be able to get into on the hilltop of the Peoria State Hospital. A young man about 24 years old, named Christopher, went by Chris, and I had a psychic medium when I first started hanging out with Chris. I had a psychic medium tell me that she said, he loves you, but not in any sort of romantic way. She said, you remind him of his sister.
mm,
So whenever I would go downstairs in the basement, which is where he primarily hung out, he would enjoy holding my hand. And I got into the habit, since this was a spirit that I actually formed a rapport with, I got into the habit of taking a friend of mine with me who is a very powerful psychic medium. So that way, Chris and I could actually have conversations, which was just a thrill for both of us, I'm sure, because
yeah.
people didn't really interact with him all that much. Um, one of the when we first started actually talking back and forth with the help of this medium, um, he would he said something that tracked with the history that I knew of the asylum, which was that the the asylum was set up in a cottage system, and these patients were treated like family members. It was very family-like environment as much as it could be in a hospital filled with people suffering from mental illness. And they would have dances every Saturday night at these in the cottages. Now, Chris died from tuberculosis. He was in quarantine in this tuberculosis ward. And he said we could hear the music, but we weren't allowed to go to the dances because we were in quarantine. I said, "Oh,
Right.
wow, that's awful. I feel bad for this guy. I mean, this young man, well, not healthy man, but this young man who really wanted to go out and dance. I mean, I felt bad for him. So the next
Yeah.
time I came in, I brought some ragtime music because he died very early on in the asylum's history. So I thought ragtime music would be something he would be familiar with. So I played it for him. And the psychic medium, my friend Diane, said, he's doing something with his he's bending over and he's got his hands on his knees. He's doing something with his hands and his knees. I said, what? He's doing the Charleston.
So good for him. Oh,
Song ended,
sweet.
and Diane said, he says, no one's ever done that for me before. And I thought, what a privilege it was to do that, to bring a spirit joy after decades and decades and decades of silence, and people just coming in going, oh, give us a sign of your presence, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that is so sweet. That is so beautiful. I love
And then
that.
the next time I came in, I had taught myself. I work at a library and we have all sorts of wonderful DVDs. And then we had a DVD of ragtime dances. So I taught myself a very simple ragtime dance. And I said, all right, Chris, this is going to be kind of weird, but would you like to dance with me? I've taught myself a dance. I've got the music here. Don't ask how, because I wasn't about to explain having the music on my phone. Wasn't prepared for that. I said, I've got music. If you want to dance, let's dance together. And Diane said, he's standing up and he's holding his hand out to you. I go, oh, that's so sweet. So I fumbled my way through this dance with an invisible partner. And at one point,
Oh,
um, there is a, it's called the castle dance. And at one point, there is a part where the woman spins and her partner spins her. And I was doing it completely ham-handedly and completely wrong. And Diane, she calls out from across the room. She goes, "He says you're trying to lead." And I said, "Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Sorry." Ah. And then he wanted to go again after the dance, and Diane said, "Oh no, she's tired. She doesn't want to dance with you again." I said, I'm happy to dance with you again. I just don't think I did a very good job at it." But he seemed to enjoy it no matter what. I mean, my clumsiness aside, he seemed to enjoy it.
it's so, so, so beautiful. I could like almost picture the dancing and him dancing with you, trying to dance in this two separate worlds. And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It was extraordinary. It was
Oh,
such a privilege to be able to interact with a spirit like that and make him happy.
right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's probably one of
I've
the
gotten the
best stories. So cool. I love
I
it.
I I try to I try to oh thank you. I try to be a good guest, like I said, and I try to interact with I try to interact with the spirits the way I would like them to interact with me. I mean, I try to be interesting. I try to be pleasant. I try to be respectful. I remember um, I when I go to a child's grave, I always put candy on the grave for them. Like when I visited the graves of the children at Villisca, I put some candy on the grave, and I put some candy. Uh, I went to a cemetery called Casey Cemetery outside of Louisville, Kentucky, when I went to Waverly,
Okay.
and we did kind of a little side quest, and there are a lot of children's graves in that particular cemetery. It's very eerie and very sobering. But I brought some Swedish fish and put them on like laid out this row of Swedish fish on the stone, the entrance stone that said Casey Cemetery. And then I've got a dear friend, Liz, who is again a very powerful psychic medium, and she was doing an EVP session, and she got someone asking, "Was it you who put the candy out for the kids?" And she knows me pretty well, and she said, "No, no, I'll bet that was my friend Sylvia." And yeah, so like I said, I've gotten this reputation of being kind to little child spirits, and just trying to be an all around pleasant investigator to work with.
I take it the kids enjoyed their candy.
I think they did. I think they really, really dug it. That was really interesting because we were at this cemetery as it was coming on dusk, and the cemetery, you have to go on this tiny little gravel road that is just, I'm glad I wasn't, I'm glad I was a passenger. I'm glad it wasn't my vehicle that was traversing this bumpy road. But it's at the end of this long, 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 long gravel road. And there's a little grassy area in front of it where people park. And then it's surrounded on three sides. It's almost like a canyon made of trees. It's surrounded on three sides with trees, and we were exploring the cemetery and just walking around and recording. And we kept hearing from the very back of the cemetery at the tree line, we kept hearing a whippoorwill calling over and over and over. It was like the entire time we were there, we heard this whippoorwill calling. And I looked it up as we were driving away, and it turns out that a whippoorwill calling is kind of a Native American sign that there are children spirits around. So
Oh,
I found that extremely interesting because this bird was just, he just kept going and going and going. And yeah, like that's really interesting.
yeah. And knowing that
So,
there was a lot of children around and you put all
yeah,
that candy out for them, it was like Halloween for them.
exactly.
For the Sasquatch, when we go camping now, I'll set out some bubbles and some peanut butter. Nothing yet, but that I know of. But I had it taken away one time
Oh,
by humans. They found it and
oh,
they took it away. I'm
humans
like,
are
"Rrr."
funny.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So were you able to communicate with any of the kids or did they say how
I
they liked the candy or anything like that?
didn't get any EVPs. I put the candy out and I said, well, I know that you were raised well, and I hope that you can say thank you for someone giving you candy. And I didn't really get a response, but I like to think that, maybe somebody was saying thank you at some point. It just didn't get picked up on my recorder. So I
Yeah,
would have
I'm
loved
sure.
to have stayed and tried to make more communication with the spirits of the children there, but we we had our experience there cut short. Um, you always say that you've got more to fear from the living than from the dead, and that experience kind of bore that out. Without going into too many details, um, the reason we went to Casey Cemetery was because it had a reputation for being very haunted and for also for having a lot of um, demonic rituals performed there. And so we wanted to go and check that out. And the I mentioned that it was at the end of a long gravel drive,
Hmm.
and this gravel drive actually started in a farmer's driveway. We were trusting the GPS to get us where we needed to go, and we were like, seriously? Is this right? And sure enough, that's it took us where we needed to go. And we were like, this looks like somebody's driveway. This is weird. And the farmer whose driveway it was had, like the night before, reported some cattle mutilations. He kept cows, and he reported a couple of them were mutilated. So we're like, oh, okay. And we were supposed to be met out there by a member of local law enforcement, and he ended up not showing. So when another car came down the driveway with three people in it that looked very sketchy indeed, and they got out of the car and were trying to engage us in conversation, and we were like, we're just paranormal investigators. We're here doing a ghost hunt. We don't want any sort of trouble or anything. And then one of them went and reached into the glove box, and we were like, time to go. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, we hightailed it out of there. We had thankfully we had parked the cars nose out facing towards the road, and we just hightailed it out of there really quick. And they followed us down that road. We were being followed. So yeah, we were really uncomfortable with that. And
I bet.
we discovered that the reason that the policeman had not met us out there that weekend was because that turned out to be the weekend of the Breonna Taylor murder, where there were writings going on because this young woman was, I mean, everyone knows the story, that the young woman was, there was a no-knock warrant, and she was slaughtered in her sleep by these policemen that burst into her apartment and killed the wrong person. So yeah, he had other things on his plate other than tagging along on our ghost hunt. So we were like, that it's fine, it's fine. We got out of there, no harm done, but it was a really tense half hour or so. So yeah.
Do you think they were there doing some worshiping?
I think so. I think
Not
they had
expecting
arrived
you?
and were not expecting to see other people there. I think they were expecting to be just by themselves. I think they were kind of put off by our presence there. So yeah, that was really, really tense.
Ooh, ooh. Yeah, yeah. I'll work into that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
you
don't want to
had,
start off with that.
oh, you don't start off with that. Yeah, I'm like, no, I'll ease into this a bit,
Yeah.
ease into it. You had a really cool experience that was one I have never heard of yet. That you were in the Sally house and you had your tea jellied up. Can you talk
Yeah,
about that? Oh my goodness.
sure thing. Yeah. Okay. So, um, There, a couple of years ago, I did have the opportunity to go to the Sally House, and I kind of made a weekend of it. It was Memorial Day weekend, as a matter of fact. So I said, yeah, I'm going to make this whole road trip. I was traveling by myself at that point. I didn't have a team to go with, but I was like, let's do this upright. So Saturday morning, I took off, and the Sally House is quite a ways away from my house. It's about a 6 hour drive. And I stopped in Springfield, Illinois, to attend a meeting of a group that I have been involved with a couple of times. And while I was there, sorry, I'm playing with my light here. Um, Carl, the guy in charge of it, is like, "Hey, you're here. Would you do a talk for us?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I talked to the group that was there about, I don't remember what, but I said, "Can I go first before the break because I'm on my way to the Sally House?" And he's like, "Oh, we've got somebody here today that has been to the Sally House many times and he's studied it, and he would be a good person for you to talk to prepare yourself for it." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to talk to him." So I talked to him during the break before I took off again. And he is like, "Be very, very, very careful." Because he said, I've talked to people who live a couple doors down and they have activity. I have talked to people who have gone to do a ghost hunt at the house and have gotten into bad car wrecks on the way home, and have had other problems after visiting. And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, okay, well, thank you for the warning. I've brought protection. I've brought crystals. I've brought a special tea that I make. So I think I'm pretty good for protection, but thank you very much for the warning." So I got back in my car and drove to the Sally House, and I got all set up, and I got my pint jar of this protective tea that I make. So I brew a tea with uh, water that I've let set out under the full moon. So when I drink this tea, I just kind of close my eyes and imagine that brilliant, beautiful white silver light of the full moon just being taken in and getting into every pore in my body, every cell of my body. And I brew a tea with strong herbs like sage and nettle and comfrey and cinnamon. And I put some honey in it for strength, and it's a really wonderful tea, and I love drinking it. But when I got this jar out and I unscrewed the lid and I took a big swig of it, I discovered that it had gelled. I've never had that happen before or since. There's no reason for it to gel. There none of the herbs that I put in have anything to do with mucilage or gelling or anything. There's no reason for this tea to gel. Um, so I tried to choke it down, but the texture was just so off-putting. You don't expect your tea to be able, you don't expect to be able to chew your tea.
No.
So I was only able to slug down about a third of it. So I really didn't have the protection that I really thought that I needed. Um, so I did the investigation, and like I said, I made a weekend of it. It's the Atchison, Kansas is within about an hour or so of St. Louis, or I'm sorry, not St. Louis, St. Joseph, Missouri. So I went to a wonderful cemetery Sunday morning and sat and got a donut and some chocolate milk and sat in the cemetery and ate it. Beautiful, beautiful cemetery called Mount Mora, and that was wonderful. And then I went to the Glore Psychiatric Museum because with my passion for mental health issues, and got to go to the Glore Psychiatric Museum, and which is also haunted, and I got to explore that, and it was great. And I stayed a little bit longer than I meant to, so that meant it was almost dark by the time I was heading home, and the GPS took me on back roads, which meant that it was at about 10 o'clock in the evening and way dark. on this back road when I ended up hitting a deer and doing about $3,000 of damage to my car. So I got home and I texted Carl and I said, please tell your friend. Thank you for the warning, but I still got tagged by the Sally house. I still got, it
Oh,
still reached out and touched me, so to speak.
oh, yeah. Oh my. Even
Yeah,
after the rest of the weekend and everything else.
yeah.
Oh
Oh,
my
it was a
goodness.
lovely weekend except for the drive home. I was
Why
like, I don't know if
is
it was the
that?
Sally house that did it, but I'm willing to bet. Yeah, I was displeased.
Why do you think it takes a time frame and then it's like on the way home? Like the gentleman said, it's when people are going home. Why does it wait
Well,
until then? What's the connection?
it was within 24 hours, so I think it just wanted to reach out and tap me in that time frame. So it was not like it was a week later. I mean, it wanted me to know that it was that influence that was was affecting me. Not like it was a couple days later and oh, maybe it wasn't the Sally house. Maybe oh, this happened a week later. Oh, maybe it didn't have anything to do with that. No, no. I was meant to know that it was the Sally house doing it.
Okay.
So, yeah, there are a lot of weird places that I've been, and every single one of them I would love to go back to, but not that place. No, I will not go to the Sally house again. I learned my lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that one. I'm not sure if those are the kinds I want to go to or like um some of
I
these
say steer
other
clear. There are
places.
plenty of other places.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too. There's a lot of places
Yeah.
nearby here that, like we have a train station nearby that I've heard
Oh yeah.
stories that a little boy walks around there. So I would like to go there and
Cool.
check that out. And we have a few places in downtown that they say is haunted. And we actually have a tour company that goes down
Nice.
and does that. I did
It's fun
theirs up
because
in, yeah.
yeah, you can get your feet underneath you and kind of know what to expect. Like we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's good to know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't know if I want to go that far.
Like I said, there are plenty of other places that are there's so much activity there and so wonderful. It's yeah. You can cross the Sally House off your list. There's so many other places to go.
Yeah. 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 I'd like to, like what you did, go dance with them or go have a tea party with some of them or,
Yeah.
oh, go have some fun, enjoy some entertainment.
Right. There's a place that I absolutely love going. It's kind of depressing, but it's still super, super fun at the same time. It's very, very strange. The energy there is just so weird. But it's Malvern Manor in Malvern, Iowa. And it started off as the Crossroads Hotel at the turn of the last century. And there actually seems to be a connection with Villisca. It's only about half an hour from Villisca, and it's on the same train it's on the same railway that Villisca is, and the theory is that whoever committed the Villisca axe murders hopped on the train, and that's the first place they would have stopped is Villisca, and there's a hotel there, and of course we don't know who did it, but it would be so cool to be able to look at a ledger from that time from June of 1912 and see, I wonder if it was this guy. I wonder if it was that guy. We don't know what name we would be looking for, but it would be cool. But Malvern Manor was a hotel for a while, and then it was a nursing home in the 1950s. And then after that, it became kind of a halfway house for people with mental illness, alcoholics, mental disabilities. And that's what it was in its last incarnation. And then that went out of business, and now it is solely given over to paranormal investigation because it is haunted to the rafters. It is very, very active, and I love, love, love going there. But I've slept there a couple of times. I always sleep in Susie's room, and Susie was a woman in her, I don't know, 60s, I guess, who had the mentality of an 8-year-old child. So she loves coloring. She loves the color pink. So I always try to bring her something like a little stuffed bunny or last time I went, I brought a little foam dinosaur that was pink, and I brought her a little soft stuffed bunny before. And she loves coloring. So her mattress, I mean, everything is still there. The people that vacated it the last time, whose spirits are there, I mean, there's all their stuff is still there. So there's a mattress on the floor in Susie's room, and it's just littered with markers and crayons and coloring books, and that's what you do. You sit and you color with Susie. And I got an absolutely wonderful EVP from her. I was sitting there coloring, and I said, I picked up a crayon that I thought was blue, and I started coloring the sheep. And I said, "Oh, that's not blue, that's purple. Well, that's okay. We can make a purple sheep, right?" And I paused, and when I played the recorder back, I discovered that when I said, "We can make a purple sheep, can't we?" Susie said, "Yeah." That's one of my favorite EVPs that I've ever captured because Susie going, "Yeah." So I like sleeping in Susie's room because I feel very safe there. She's a very gentle spirit. Um, the first night I slept over there, it was beastly hot, and there's really no sort of air conditioning in there, so I could tell myself. It was interesting because the door to Susie's room doesn't close.
Oh.
So right, yeah. That didn't make me too happy, but I had my salt with me in my ghost hunting vest, so I just sprinkled a line of salt on the door, and I made somebody walk up there with that. I made Josh walk up there with me, the caretaker, made him walk me up there, and I didn't make him tuck me in, but I made him walk up there with me, and he watched me put the salt down. He's like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So I was lying there trying to sleep, stupid hot, and I could tell myself that all the cracks and pops that I was hearing were just the building settling, but that didn't explain the woman's laughter I heard out in the hallway. So, yeah, that happened.
Somebody
so,
was probably having fun with that purple sheep.
so I think so. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite places is Malvern Manor. Love that place.
Sounds sweet. At least Sally's room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. How awesome. How awesome.
yeah. And
That's
now I'm going to
crazy.
be going back. The next time I go back there, I'm going to be with a team. And I told my boyfriend, I'm like, You can sleep anywhere you like, but I'm sleeping in Susie's room. You can share the mattress with me. That's fine. But that's where I'm sleeping. I'm calling that." And oh man, I think you would really like Malvern Manor because it's, the energy there can be deathly depressing, but it can also be super, super, super fun. There is a place in the newer part of the building that used to be the nursing home, and it's called the Dizzy Room because it has an effect on people, and I have no idea why. Everything else in this building, there's some sort of explanation for it. There's the captain's room, there's Gracie's room, there's Henry's room, um, there's Susie's room, there's the attic, which is haunted by something horrible. Um, and there's a big black mass that will charge you from the end of the hallway, and even that has an explanation because in life there was the guy who lived in that room would charge nurses and just be very aggressive and everything, so even that has an explanation, but no one has ever come up with an explanation for the Dizzy Room, but it's delightful. So wait, one of the times I think this was the first time I actually spent the night. It was my second time there, but it was the first time I spent the night. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. So we were all punch drunk anyway. And there were several other women and I in that hallway where the black mass likes to charge people. We never saw it. But we were in that hallway, and there was someone using dowsing rods. And we were talking with whatever was in the Dizzy Room because the door was open. And we were like, well, do you want someone to go into the room and have an experience of whatever kind? And the dowsing rods swung and pointed directly at me. I said, okay, challenge accepted. So I went in there and I had my recorder with me. And unfortunately, the recorder stopped after about 14 seconds. It turned itself off. And I was desperately disappointed by this because I had just had the most amazing experience. So I was standing there, and it's called the Dizzy Room for a reason. So I was like, all right, what do you got for me? So I was standing there with my knees kind of soft, and all of a sudden I pitched forward for no reason at all. And I caught myself, and the woman out in the hallway said, I was absolutely certain you were going to face plant. I was about to hop up from my chair and catch you because I fell that far forward, but I caught myself. And then I'm standing there, and it was like there was this electric shock that ran from my shoulders all the way down through my arms, through both arms at the same time, and it just spun in my fingertips. This electric jolt. And I was like, that was awesome. It was just so stinking cool. And I went back out,
ride.
and I looked down at my recorder and saw that it had stopped recording. I'm like, son of a... I just cussed a little bit. And then I reassured everyone that I was completely fine. And I went back in there. I made sure my recorder was turned back on. I stood in the same place. I was like, do it again. And it didn't do it again. But instead, I felt like, so you've been on a train before, right? And you've walked around on a train. So
No,
it's like,
but okay.
but it was
I'll
like
imagine
being,
this.
okay, so it was like being on a train. It was like standing and feeling the floor moving, feeling the floor vibrating under your feet. It was extraordinary. It was so stinking cool.
Wow. I'm imagining like a roller coaster. I've been on a wooden roller coaster, so I'm going to picture that one.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So with the dowsing rods, did you ask? Did you
Oh,
ask
we
like,
weren't really, they only really, the only really, the thing that we got from the dowsing rods that was any sort of positive at all, any sort of reaction at all, was when we asked, do you want someone to go into the room? And they swung and pointed at me.
Hmm.
So, but wait, there was something else though. One of the women had a headache, and we asked whatever was in the hallway. We asked, "Are you the one that's causing Sally's headache or whatever?" And that the rods crossed in a yes. So we did get that reaction from the rods, but that was the strongest one. Was, "Do you want someone to go into the room?" So, so yeah, but man, that was neat. And then the next time I was there, the second time I stayed the night, I was with a friend of mine, and I said, you got to come check this place out. It's so cool. So he had heard my story. So it was he and I in that hallway, and he would not go into the dizzy room. He's like, man, I don't know. That story you told me, that's kind of weird. He would only go into the door. He would stand in the doorway. He watched me, but he would not actually come into the room. I'm like, oh, man, you're a chicken. So, so I went in there, and this time I made sure that my recorder was going. And I said, all right, what do you got for me this time? What do you got for me this time? And I'm standing there again with my knees kind of bent. And there is a an investigative technique that you can use if you don't have any equipment with you and you want to ask questions anyway. It's just a yes no sort of thing. So you stand there, it's called the human pendulum. And you stand
Yeah.
there, and I'll say, okay, show me my yes. And I'll say, um, I'm a woman with long blonde hair. And my body will tilt forward, and that's what yes looks like. And you'll say, okay, show me my no. And I'll say something like, I really love pizza with shrimp and anchovies on it. And my body will tilt backwards. That's what no feels like. Okay. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, all right, what do you got for me this time? And I wasn't doing it at all, but I started rocking back and forth just as I would have in the human pendulum experiment. And I wasn't doing it, I wasn't trying to, I was just letting the room do whatever it wanted to with me physically. And I looked over at my friend, I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is just happening. And he just watched me with this bemused smile on his face. And after a while, it just settled down and my body stopped moving. And I looked back at him and I said, and we're done. This gentle experience, and it was obviously something was happening, but it was gentle and pleasant, and it was so cool. I love that place.
That would be interesting. That would be
Yeah,
interesting.
there were a group of women that we were kind of making plans a couple of years ago to spend like 3 or 4 days at Malvern Manor. It just never panned out. It just never happened. But if I had been part of that, I think I would have liked to have spent one of those nights sleeping in the dizzy room just to see what would happen. And you can bet your butt that I would have had a camera on watching me
You
sleep the whole night.
have to make sure you're asking them to keep the camera on and not to turn it off.
Yeah, please don't turn the camera off. I want to see what happens. Exactly.
Just like when you turned it off when I was spinning, okay? Let's not do that again. Show me what's going on.
Leave my equipment alone.
Alone, right? If I want to ask for your opinion, I'll ask for it, but this one is a no.
Right, yeah. Keep your energy to yourself. Just mess with me all you like. Just don't mess with what's recording me.
That's funny. That is funny. Oh, that is crazy. I love it. I love it. Oh, we're at an hour already, and I can't believe it. Yes, yes. I know. I know. You're going to have to come back and we're going to have to talk some more because there's still more stuff going on here. You still have more
Yeah,
stuff to talk
there's
about.
way more stuff. I have so many more stories. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have to come back and we're going to have to talk some more. And this is going to be
I'd be
great.
delighted to.
I love it. I, I have Eugene in the back. He's my little Eugene in my
Okay. Hi,
background.
Eugene.
And this little guy, or whoever he is, was in my
Uh-huh.
backyard. I think you might want to be interested in it. So
Huh?
was in my backyard, however my camera goes. Um,
Uh-huh.
we saw this in the camera, in the phone camera,
Okay.
but we did not. I had my husband come in and be a witness for me
Yeah.
because there was nothing in my backyard with the bare eye, but we saw something similar to this in the camera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then
Huh.
when we replayed it,
Yeah.
it looked completely different yet. And this is a picture of the video that I have in one of the sections of the video. This is a picture of it. So,
Oh my. That is
yeah,
fascinating.
it's really cool. I thought it would be
Yeah, I
fun
guess
for
your
your show.
camera was picking something up that your naked eye couldn't see.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's neat.
Yeah. This really fun one. It was dancing back and forth, going in and out of the camera. It was cool.
Marvelous.
It was
Now,
cute.
when um, I used to work with a group called Guard, and we investigated a house outside of Monmouth, Illinois, and this farmhouse that was about to be torn down. And we had just a weird experience talking about, seeing something and not being able to see it, but seeing it camera wise. We had a camera set up in the an upstairs bedroom, a child's room in the upstairs part of the house. And we were watching the cameras and we could see this light, this ball of light just kind of bopping around the bedroom. We were like, oh, that's really weird. And we sent one of the investigators up and she was like, I don't see anything at all up here. And we're like, it's right in front of you. It's bopping around. Now it's behind your head. Now it's on your left. Now it's right in front of you. And she's like, I don't see anything. And we were trying to figure out if it was like flashlights from the lower floor. And no, we all had our flashlights off. We were completely lights out. But yet this ball of light was on the camera doing its thing, and she was like, I see nothing. So that actually got her on My Ghost Story. They flew her out to the West Coast to tape this episode of My Ghost Story, and so yeah, it
Awesome.
was really neat.
Yeah, this was really cool. When we were actually watching it, it was like the form of a body. It
Oh
didn't look
wow.
like this. Is this here looks more like a W in red, a red W. But
Wow.
when it was happening, it was this white body,
Uh-huh.
the white body, and like right here, it was like you
Yeah.
could see like the skeleton in parts of the body, but it was everywhere. But it did
Oh,
not look like
neat.
this. But it did not look
Oh
like
man.
this. Not at all. But this was what you see afterwards. It was weird. It was like three separate things that we were seeing on the same entity. Crazy.
Wow. There's so much we don't understand yet, and it's just so cool when something
Isn't
like that
it?
happens.
It's so cool.
I love
It's so cool.
it.
I love it too. It's just the greatest thing. And it's that was really cool. Yeah, I'm like calling my husband and you gotta be a witness with me. You gotta witness this. You have to be here for this. I'm not going to be called crazy because of this. You're going to go down with me. But he witnessed it too. He didn't see anything out in the yard, but when he looked on the camera, he saw. And the next morning, I drew what we were seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, "How does this look? Is this similar to what we?" He's right on.
Wow.
And then I looked at it again, and it's like this is like looks nothing like. It's cool.
That's
Anyways,
neat.
I had to throw that in. But anyways, I had to describe my picture back there because it's not my typical type of picture. But this
Uh-huh.
is one of my really cool ones. So, anyways,
Excellent.
anyways, anyways. Well, I'm gonna have to have you back on, so we will set up another time to bring you back. And
Fantastic.
yeah, any last words you want to say?
Oh, go out there and have fun. Everybody, stay respectful and introduce yourself. And if you go out hunting for ghosts, be safe and have fun.
There you go. Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And if anybody else out there has any shows or any stories you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.